Hello, we are Mr. Gast, art teacher, and we are in my art studio, and we are starting at the bottom of page 27. Soon, everyone on the practice pitch was calling me Kyra. Even when I went to the trading center, I was greeted with shouts and praise. Hey, Kyra, I heard you play like a lion. But when it came time to pick teams for the competition, the captains somehow skipped over me. Thinking this was a serious mistake on my part, I pointed it out, only to be told to sit on the bench. How could this be? Well, I thought the captains are clever fellows. Perhaps they're saving me from injury, keeping me as a secret weapon for the finals. This made me feel even more special. But while I sat on the sidelines, the other players ran past me and yelled, "Keep the bench warm, Kyra," or "Kyra, we'll need needing you soon," as the Boella. A Boella was a ball fetcher. That's when I realized it had all been a joke. I was called Kyra, not because of my ferocious skills, but because I was a lousy player. The following summer, I decided to do something about it. Mr. Fury had a nephew named Sabani, who was always bragging about being a real Sang'anga, who possessed Manglamera. Gilbert and I suspected he was full of hot air, but we were never sure. Shambani was small like me, yet he boasted like a man 3 times his size. This made us wonder. Sabani didn't go to school, but worked all day in the fields with his uncle, so he was usually there when I returned home in the afternoon, complaining about bullies or sitting on the bench. One day, after hearing another one of my pathetic stories, he pulled me aside. "Every day you're moaning about these boys, and I'm tired of hearing it," he said. "I can give you Manglamera. You can become the strongest guy in school. All of the bullies will fear you." But of course, having superpowers was a lifelong dream. On the soccer field, I could fly like a leopard with legs like rocket launchers. Pow! Reacting to my Manglamera, bullies at school would wet their trousers with fright. My father had always warned me about playing with magic, but now the Shabani standing there, smiling like a mongoose, I couldn't resist. "Okay," I blurted, "I'll take it." "We'll do it in the blue gum forest," he said. "Meet me there in 1 hour and bring 20 tambala." A tambala was like a penny in our Malwarian money. An hour later, I arrived in the forest and waited in the shadows for Shabani. My heart beating fast, Shabani then appeared through the trees, carrying a black bag that contained something heavy. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm ready." "Then sit down." We took a seat on the soft red dirt, and he opened his bag of wonders. From inside, he pulled out a tiny matchbox. "In here are the blackened bones of lions and leopards, along with other roots and herbs." He fished out another package filled with strange dust, which he mixed in with the ashes. "These other materials are extremely rare, found only at the bottom of the ocean." "How did you get them?" I asked. "Look, boy," he snapped. "I am not some ordinary person. I get them from the bottom of the ocean." I stayed down there for 3 whole days. If I wanted to, I could turn every person in your stupid village into an ant. So don't play with me, Bombo. If you want this kind of power, it will cost you lots of money. What I'm giving you is only a small taste. I didn't even see him pull out his magic razor. Before I knew it, he grabbed my hand and cut into my knuckles. "Ah!" I screamed. "Be still and don't cry," he said. "If you cry, it won't work." "I'm not crying." My knuckles brightened with blood. For each one, Shabani pinched a little powder and rubbed it into the cuts. The medicine stung like 100 bees. Once he finished both hands, I exhaled with relief. "See, I didn't cry," I said, panting. I'd been holding my breath. "Do you think it'll work?" "Oh yeah, it'll work." "When?" I asked. "When will I have my power?" He thought for a few seconds and said, "Give it 3 days to work its way through your veins. Once it's complete, you'll feel it." 3 days? Yeah. "Whatever you do, don't eat okra and stay away from sweet potato leaves." "I'll remember." And lastly, he added, "Tell no one." I walked out of the forest, rubbing my mangled knuckles. Although they hurt like mad, I had to admit they looked pretty tough. That evening, I hid in my room and spoke to no one. 3 days was a long time to wait, but it worked with my plan. It was the beginning of the summer holiday. The following morning, I left to visit my grandparents who lived a few hours away in the town of Dawa. It was the perfect place to receive my powers before coming home a hero. Well, 3 days crept by so slowly, I thought I would die from boredom. Worse, my grandmother kept putting me into work, cleaning the yard and chicken pens and scrubbing her kitchen floor, which left my arms tired and rubbery. Oh, I wondered when I would become strong. But on the 4th day, I awoke and instantly felt different. My arms were heavy as if laden with stones, flexed my muscles, and they felt as firm as tree trunks. My hands, squeezed into fists, were solid as 2 bricks. Heading outside, I took off running down the dirt road to test my speed. Sure enough, I felt the wind in my face like never before. That afternoon, my Uncle Mata invited me to watch a soccer game at the town field. Perfect, I thought. Here I can test my powers. Like always, the place was packed with people. But I had no interest in the game. Instead, I scanned the crowd looking for the biggest boy. When I found him, around my age, standing on the far corner of the field, I walked over, stomped on his bare foot, and he let out a cry. "Excuse me," he said, hopping up and down. "You just stepped on my toes." I stared at him and said nothing. I said, "You stepped on my toes. It hurt." "So what?" I said. "Well, it's rude, don't you think?" "Then why don't you do something about it?" He looked confused. "What do you mean?" "You heard me. Do something, Cape." Cape is a drooling idiot. "Well, in that case," he said, "I'm going to beat you." That's what I was hoping you would say. We began dancing around in circles, and it wasted no time. I unleashed a flurry of punches that were so fast and terrifying that my arms blurred before my eyes. I gave him lefts and rights and a few uppercuts for good measure. My iron fists moved so furiously I didn't even feel them smashing his face. After a while, though, I began to feel sorry for the guy, so I backed away and took a breath. To my surprise, the boy was still standing. Worse, he was laughing at me. Before I could unleash another deadly round, I felt a terrible pain in my eye, and then another and another. Soon I was lying on the ground while his fist pounded my back and stomach. By the time my uncle raced over and rescued me, I was crying and covered with dust. "What are you doing, William?" he shouted. "You know better than to fight. The boy's twice your size." I was so embarrassed that I ran back to my grandparents' house and didn't come outside for the rest of the weekend. Once I got home, I found Shabani and confronted him. "Your magic doesn't work. You promised me power. I was beaten in Dawa." "Of course it works," he said, then thought for a second. "Listen, did you take a bath the day I gave it to you?" "Yes." "Well, that's why. My medicine doesn't allow you to bathe." "You never said that." "Of course I did, but as you can see, I was clearly cheated. My first and only experience with magic left me with sore hands, a throbbing eye, and a healthy dose of skepticism. Gradually, the witches and wizards didn't seem as frightening or powerful, and I began to look at the world in a different way. I saw it as one explained by fact and reason rather than mystery and hocus pocus. But in this world, there still existed the same set of sorrows.